Global conflict. Are we at world war? Is it over for Bitcoin and the crypto market? We've got some key signals we need to pay attention to. We're going to be diving right on into this as we speak. I'm just getting this retweeted out. Do me a favor, reshare this. If you're watching on X, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Rumble, get this tweeted out to your friends and family. We're going to get right into the charts right now as I'm sharing this out, and we will get into it because we got some key things we need to pay attention to. For altcoins, seeing some very bearish behavior. Is it a setup for higher soon, or are we going to need to wait a few months? Everybody, let's go. Let's dive in. Drop a GM and the city you are tuned in from. Good morning from Atlanta. Where are you tuned in from? Say GM and the city that you're in. Let's go. Absolute carnage on the charts over the weekend. As you can see over my shoulder, Tau is down into that 300 range. You guys didn't think it was going to get there, but I was highlighting that only a few weeks ago. Ethereum also dropped to that level that I think a lot of people did not see coming, which was below 2,200, dropped right into that golden pocket. We see Bitcoin actually lost $100,000. Boom, right now it's back above it, but it dropped down into that $98,000 range. What is going on right now? Because we're seeing things across the board, whether we're diving into the charts and we're seeing some bearishness here. Well, if we zoom out a little bit, we realize we've just been trading in this range. However, there is that level that I've been pointing out for some time for Bitcoin to come down into these moving averages. These moving averages are showing key support levels, and in the face of price action having the double top here, coming back up, getting a secondary double top right in here, and of course all of the uncertainty that just keeps nonstop just beating the prices down with the news from Iran, what's going on with Israel, what's going on with the back and forth flip-flopping of the tariffs, with the lack of rate cuts. But I've got some key signals. I got some key things that you want to pay attention to. So make sure you're subscribing. I'm going to make sure we can help keep you on the right side of the trend, because I've been talking about these lower prices. Even though our bias is to the upside, the macro story still does point up. But in the near term, as I've been pointing out, a little bit of risk mitigation. There's some downside potential, and we're seeing that play out in the charts as we speak. If we come over here and look at the crypto bubbles, we are seeing a lot of red on the charts. This is a weekly. Of course, on the daily, we're getting a little bit of a bounce from that massive sell-off we saw yesterday. But then if you come back to the hourly, back in the red. So we're seeing chop across the board right now. But what is going on? Well, first off, I just want to highlight something. If you did not tune in this weekend on Saturday, the video is still up. There is a video on the BitLab Academy page. Let me go ahead and pull this up. There's a video I did with Dave Weisberger. Great interview that I really recommend each and every one of you watching. It's this one right here, Insider Signal. This is about just right at an hour of just absolute alpha of what's going on in the market, what's going on in regards to the Fed cuts or lack of cuts, what's going on with global liquidity, altcoins. Are we going to see a cycle? When is the cycle top? Dave Weisberger seems to think that we will not see a top on a regular 4-year cycle, but however, we will see it more likely going into either summer next year or into early or late Q3, I should say, because of what's happening with the midterm elections. So you cannot hear me? You say it's very low. Is it a little bit better now? I wonder why. Should be okay. Is it better? Let me know if it is better. We'll turn it up. Boom. Sure. Microphone. Let me know if it's a little bit better. Audio very low. I don't know why it's low, but let me see. It should be fine. Give me 1 second. I'm just turning this up. Is it a bit better now? It should be a bit better now. Check. Wispy says you're fine. All right. So definitely go and watch this if you come to the BitLab Academy page. By the way, if you're watching on Rumble or X, get over to this page. Make sure you're following us here on YouTube as well. But come over here to the live button. It's this video right here. The Bitcoin 2026 top question mark. This, and we completely breaks this down. But he talks about altcoins too, and he highlights something that's very important that CZ from Binance is highlighting as well. What's going to go on with altcoins? Only a small number of strong coins will do that, meaning get back to all-time high and go into price discovery. Look for long-term staying power and growth potential, real integrations of what's going on with the Web 2 or legacy finance world, as well as stepping into this new blockchain age, the age of blockchain and crypto getting integrated across the world through payment networks, through merchants, through governments, through proof of reserves, all of it is getting integrated onto the blockchain, especially following the Genius Coin, the Genius Act that just passed Senate. Now Trump is really putting pressure on the House Representatives so they can get that passed and then basically signed and put into law. But this is just something to remember. It doesn't mean your alts aren't going to do well. It's just more likely than not the ones that have the best real utility. If it wasn't just the teams deploying, buying, and selling tokens like on XRP and some of the other coins out there. That's not hate, that's just a fact. And it's true for many altcoins out there. Would the project, if it was to go before venture capitalists, or if it was to go before somebody in the traditional markets that was looking for, is this company, is this project profitable? Does it look sustainable? Does it have real momentum for growth potential over time by solving some use case, displacing and being a disruptor in the technology field that it's in? Then it will likely do well. That's things like what we're seeing with Solana, what we're seeing with BitTensor Tau, what we're seeing with Chainlink, what we're seeing with Ethereum. Ethereum is not dead, guys, especially with the advent of the Genius Act getting passed. So just pay attention. Take some rips out there. Aerodrome Finance is within this very positive use case utility as well for everything that they're doing, especially getting integrated the base DEXs onto the Coinbase app for a lot more access and volume. But we got to look at what's going on the stage, because political rumor, geopolitical rumor, a senior Iranian political source says Iran will likely attack the U.S. military facilities in the coming hours. This is going to cause a shakeup in the market if it does happen. Again, if. We do know that many of their defenses and many of their operational abilities have been limited by many of the strikes that have gone on over the last 10 days. However, we will have to see how this plays out. And then furthermore, we see this from the British, the UK tells British citizens in Qatar to shelter in place. So are we about to see the conflict widening and getting sort of growing outside of just what we're seeing in Iran? We need to pay attention to what's going on right now, because it could spell a bit more bearishness in the charts in terms of downward price pressure or lack of ability to really move up with momentum. And this might present opportunities for buying. The question is, what is your strategy right now? What's your ability to endure if we do have bearish price action? If you're buying here and the market drops 15%, are you selling if it drops 15%? Or is that part of your strategy to short here and go down? You have to answer that question for yourself. There are many signs that point to upward price action that could explode at any moment to the upside. There's other things that really indicate risk mitigation, to being a little bit hands-off, risk-off context within the market right now. So we need to be a little bit adaptable and a little bit patient right now with what's going on in this market. And then the next question is this: is the strike that we just saw in Iran something that may either intentionally, like this was a targeted attack on Bitcoin miners as well as these nuclear facilities, or is this just happen chance? Maybe also because Iran has been shutting down their internet, maybe so these miners have gone offline. I don't know, but this has, basically hash rate drops 29%, coinciding with the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. So this is interesting because when you tend to see large drops in hash rate, it also can be very heavily correlated with downward price action in the market. So we need to pay attention to this and realize these drops, it could be signaling something coming here in the very near future. It might just be a blip on the radar for what's happening in mining, but we'll have to see. There's a lot of developing news that just seems like it's non-stop these days. But then we get some bullishness. Michelle Bowman, who is historically hawkish Fed governor, now supports an emergency rate cut coming in July at the next FOMC meeting. I think it's towards the end of July. So let's see how this plays out. We have seen on such a regularity when we do have large international conflict, more often than not, it's also signaled to have money printing. It's basically quantitative easing coming in to help fund those efforts. Maybe it's not even to fund those efforts. Maybe the conflicts that we're seeing globally over the last many years, just how the world works, is sort of a duck and cover. Let's go ahead and have this conflict so you don't see what we're doing over here. I don't know, but we need to pay attention because we are still seeing the global M2 push to the upside and Bitcoin is moving to the downside. But so when we're looking at everything going on, as fearful as people are right now, we need to realize we're still seeing bullish expansion in terms of the fundamentals of the digital asset ecosystem. We see this from Terrence Michael at Proof of Money. Make sure you're following him if you're not. Great contact. How am I not following Terrence? We talk all the time. That's funny. Make sure I'm following him as well. 73% of youngsters favor Bitcoin for long-term investment over gold. This is going to be a rising trend, especially as we have trillions of dollars that are going to be essentially passed down as, these generations rotate and we get money that's passed down, bequeathed or willed or basically handed over to those next generations as people pass on to the other side. So if this is going to be the growing trend where people are looking more aggressively to invest and move their capital into Bitcoin, this could be one of those largest wealth impact things ever, especially for those that are actively investing in Bitcoin before this wealth transfer happens. Now, when we're looking at what's happening right now in the market, something I want you to notice, this chart here from BitcoinMagazinePro.com, this is on-chain data, but in this case, we're looking at the Bitcoin funding rates. So is the majority of people betting on leverage long or the majority of people betting on leverage short? And what this means is if everybody's betting long, then you get positive funding rates. It becomes more expensive to go long. And these funding rates get charged to they get enacted and drawn from these traders about every 8 hours. So as you see these little red blips here, this is when the majority of the market starts basically trading short. And what do you notice? As this dip comes down, everybody starts flipping short here. This ends up forming a base before we move to the upside. Now, again, look, drops right in here, and we get this little blip down where everybody flips short for a second. Boom, the price pops back up. Similarly, right here, everybody flips short, and we get a quick little pop. Now, this obviously had a continuation to the downside, but these are noticeable of great sort of temporary, at minimum, temporary reversal points. Now we're starting to see a little bit of red pop in here, boom, 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 and the market reverses to the upside. We're starting to see the same thing again right here, just before this little relief rally, boom, right back up to a little bit lower high. This indicated a good dip buying opportunity for the people that are out there trading. Because when everybody flips short in a macro bullish environment, these tend to be great opportunities for little scalp trades. Now we're seeing this again right in here. So the question is going to be, how does this play out? We're going to be patient here. We're going to let the market sort of deliver itself to us by being patient and letting the data paint the picture for what our strategy should be at the moment. Now, when we look, we also see, look, this is all these shorts opening up. What does this mean? As the price is getting weaker and the bullish hope about what's going to happen in the near term starts to weaken, we start getting a lot more people going short, which is what all these yellow lights are up here. The bright colors is basically an indication that there's been a lot of shorts open, and this is essentially liquidity up here of people betting on price going down. If the price were to push up into these zones, they would be forced to close those shorts, or they'll be forced liquidated, meaning these shorts then flip into buys. That's how you close a short, is to flip this, and it becomes buying pressure in the market. So when you see these very bright colors, as you see the price action pushes up into this, It's almost like a moth to a flame. Price tends to go where there's a lot of free liquidity. Boom, a lot of free liquidity clears it out. Now we start moving down and we get a lot more free liquidity above us. I would not be surprised to see the price action, at least in the near term, get a little pop up here and try to flush out this area, basically $103,600. It doesn't have to happen. If the macro stance, especially with the news that's coming in, keeps pushing a bearish narrative and people are buying it, then it wouldn't be shocking for the trend to continue and move to the downside, even though that light's there. Because one data point doesn't give you signal. Now, while we do have liquidity up here, the moth usually goes to the flame. But if something happens in Qatar, if another country, another sovereign power out there enters the conflict of what we're seeing with Iran, if the Strait of Hormuz really does get closed and that turns into something bigger, then it doesn't matter that there's liquidity up here. The price will likely drop from this point. But it's okay, because if you've been tuned in here on BitLab Academy, I've been talking about this for about a month. These levels down here, when the price was back here, let's see, this was, see, May 22nd. May 22nd, which is just about a month ago, we talked about as the price pushed up into these zones, watch the moving averages that are below us, because price very regularly comes and tests these zones. This didn't quite get there, but look, we actually tested below this and then slingshot it up, tested below it, then slingshot it up. Now, as the price pushed up into this, we got a secondary high that's lower, and the relative strength index also showed weakness at this point. So it starts giving the picture that this wants to retest back into this sort of moving average cloud, which is a short-term holder cost basis, all the way down to the 200-day moving average. And this is basically goes from about $95,000 up to $98,000. And what did we just see on the price action? Price action just tapped only yesterday down into, look at this, down into all the way, 98,170. And this is still within this broader range that we've been looking at right here, where this is just boom, 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 boom. Now, if this is lost, remember, we've got those levels that we've been looking at, so it doesn't shock us. I didn't even notice this chart that I've had drawn. Look at this. It came right back down into the zone where all of this chop, rejection, support, support at the bottom, rejection near the top, a little chop there, bounce on the top, rejection at the top, bounce on the bottom, chop right in the middle. And look, the price actions come right down into the zone. Does it mean that it's over? I don't think it's over. I think what's over is people that are capitulating without a strategy. So many people feel like this cycle's over. And in fact, we have to remember to zoom out and look at what we saw last year. Look at this period right here. When you're looking at this from this point, it's just been a steady move to the upside. However, what did we see from this point right here all the way across to the breakout point? Look at that. That is 225 days of sideways price action, max confusion, just completely washing people that are going short out, and then washing people that are going long out, and then washing people that are going short out, and then washing people that are going long out, just trapping both directions, consolidating, turning into a beautiful accumulation for a slingshot boom to the upside. Now, what we're seeing right now, if we come from the top, we are now pushing into 189 days. Can you believe that? It feels like it's moving so fast because it is. We feel like the market is not doing anything because we want everything to run right now. But currently, since this top up here at about, look at this, December 17th, we're seeing the price that topped out about 107, 108, $108,000 or so. To where we're at right now, we've basically been ranging sideways for 186, 187 days. Sideways. And yet people feel like nothing's happening. No, we have a bigger market with bigger players, with more bullish fundamentals we've ever seen, with the geopolitical conflict going on right now, with the market trying to decide, especially with all the new players involved, with corporate and sovereign and state level, and all these Bitcoin treasury companies. The ETFs, new players, big money players, where some are looking at Bitcoin like a long-term stack, and still some people are looking at this like a high volatility asset that they're trading. Other people are not quite sure, so they're in it, but then it drops some and they get out. The market is trying to define how it fits into the global financial stage right now. So for me, for you, for those of us that are watching this market, and we see these opportunities, these pullbacks are opportunities coming from the top all the way down there, about a 30% move to the downside. What would happen if that happens again? It's roughly about the same height, but if we got 30%, look, that would come directly down into where this order block is, this green block that comes across, which would be testing this previous range high that we saw previously. But what we'd like to see at minimum, if this does drop down into these zones, we'd like to see at least a higher low or a stronger data set of where money flows at, the relative strength index. We'd like to see some things, but this I think is a bit doom and gloomy. I don't think we're going to get a move all the way down sub $80,000. Let's zoom in a bit, because when we're looking at this, we have plenty of levels before that. On the 4-hour chart, if this were to drop in, I mean, look at where this bounced perfectly right on basically the top, option J, right on the top of where this previous range high was, right in here. What date was that? That was on basically May 2nd. And look where price pushed up. Where is it going to go if it draws down? You look to the previous range high, boom, and look, currently it's held. If this is able to hold, this would be great if it chopped a little bit and then started to work its way up. I think we still have into the end of June, which is another week, and then into the first week of July. We have some things that are concerning in terms of positive or negative sentiment in the market. And that is what's going on with all the trade and tariff deals that are supposed to come due and basically finalize what that plan's going to be with all these different countries. So that could be a very positive boon in the market. If those things come in positively, we start getting some of those things settled. If the Iran thing starts to dissipate by then at the same time, and that conflict's over, maybe Ayatollah Khomeini steps down, maybe there's a regime change, I don't know. Between now and 2 weeks from now, there's a lot that could take place, especially with other nations entering the conflict. So if these things happen and there's bearishness in the market that freaks out, because remember, Bitcoin is, in the crypto market, is the most liquid market out there that trades 24/7. So why did Bitcoin, as you can see right here, crash? Why did it lose 100,000? Why did altcoins? I mean, Ethereum dropped down to about 2130, 2120. Why is the market crashing over the weekend? Well, think about it. The crypto ecosystem is the most liquid market that's open 24/7. And as Dave Weisberger pointed out on the stream that we did on Saturday, people don't necessarily sell something because that's what they're choosing to sell. They sell things a lot of times because that's what they're able to sell. So if crypto is open 24/7 and you see some sort of big impact in markets in the risk narrative, like a conflict in the Middle East and bombs getting dropped, then the easiest thing to sell at that moment on Sunday morning or Saturday night is the market that's open. That is very liquid. So in one aspect, it gives you a leading ability to take advantage of the hope or take advantage of the fear because of this liquid market. Unfortunately, a lot of people get tripped out like, why is crypto crashing and the market isn't? Well, the market wasn't open on the weekend. And now we saw today, if we come over here and look at the S&P 500 or SPX, we did see a bit initially. Let's actually look at this on the 1 hour. We saw a bit of an opening like pump here. Nice little pump to the upside. It came right into the range where all this was and then rejected back down. If this is able to hold here, this would be the most bullish thing for the risk narrative in the markets. If this holds here and starts to rotate back to the upside, incredible for Bitcoin and altcoins. If this pushes up or holds right where it's at and rolls over and drops, comes down to the next level down, 5,800, we'll probably more likely than not see some trouble in the crypto market as well. Excuse me. Now, there's a couple other things I wanted to share here. Okay, we have all that liquidity above us, but we also have, this is still on the cards for me. Although we're seeing some struggle right now in the very near term, maybe for the next 1 to 3 weeks, I'm still looking at the targets in this cycle somewhere up in here, somewhere above $150,000. Now, is it going to go to all the way up here? I'm not saying that. I'm saying these are the 3 different levels I'm watching. It may only hit the very bottom side of this likely target. It may push all the way up into this hype cycle target up here above 200. We'll have to see how this market plays out. And the fact that we have midterm elections next year, everybody's arguing that the 4-year cycle, the crypto market's going to top in October or November this year. Well, we've had such a resetting of the global economic stage since this new administration took office, in addition to the completely universe of a difference of a structure to how the current administration is changing from complete suppression to complete empowerment of the crypto ecosystem. And this is in a time where we're kind of getting all these tariffs, the trade wars, all this stuff. Now we have the conflict in the Middle East. It's my expectation, and this may or may not play out, it's my expectation that we will see a lot more of this stair-stepping with these long multi-month accumulations. You know, this was over 200 something days. This right here is about 187 days so far since we had this top back here initially. Now, will we get up here? Yes. The question's when. We have to let this play out, and I still expect probably a little bit more downside if we are lucky enough to get the price actually to drop down here into what I identified as the gift from God buy zone, which would basically, I would say really anything under 90,000, but in this $84,000 to $88,000 range, that would be excellent. I expect this to continue to frustrate the living hell out of people as it stair steps to the upside. And considering that we have the midterm elections next year, and it's basically, it's not a presidential election, but it's ultimately very important, because if the Republicans maintain having a Republican dominant, basically Congress and House of Representatives, then what will happen is they're able to continue to move more aggressively at carrying forward with the policies that they're looking to push. So why is that important? Because money rules all this. If we start seeing, whatever, even a drawdown here before we push to the upside, I'm expecting as we push into the middle to the end of this year, they're going to be more aggressive on the Fed than we are expecting, especially with the foreign conflict now. Now, as we move into early 2026, into probably the end of Q1, starting into Q2, I expect there's going to be probably quite a bit of quantitative easing as well. What do we see when we see quantitative easing? We see a massive impact on price go up on risk assets. What I mean by that, if we actually pull this back up, I have to click on this button 17 times for it to work. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now right here, show global liquidity year over year change. I'm going to turn this on, and this shows you how much it changed versus last year. This shows you the speed of money coming into the ecosystem. This was after COVID right here. Look at this massive, massive injection of liquidity. And then what we see? We saw a parabolic rise to follow. Similarly, we've seen choppiness. This entire cycle, we've seen choppiness. Massive choppiness. Now, if we start actually getting quantitative easing beyond just all these mechanisms they've done, like rolling money out of their Treasury general account and the Fed buying treasuries to kind of buoy that up, but also considering that China has lost $18 trillion out of their market since 2021. So this is part of the reasons why currently you see the global liquidity ticking up. You're also seeing the European Central Bank, and you're also seeing the Bank of Japan. You're also seeing the Bank of Brazil. All these other players that are on the global stage, they've been basically injecting liquidity into the ecosystem. The U.S. has yet to do so, except for in these stealth sort of hidden ways where they're kind of buoying the market. But at some point, they're going to need, just by nature of how fiat systems work, to get a pretty big injection of liquidity in the markets. And if this happens going into next year, making the markets very happy going into the election cycle, that's generally, unfortunately, what happens. Rather than just making good decisions consistently for whatever they think is good, both parties, this is not unique to one party. This is both parties. Whoever's in power, they try to buoy the system by doing all these liquidity events to make the market seem better than it is. So we got to pay attention to this. Now, when we come back over to the charts here, this is what we're seeing currently. We're seeing a pullback on Bitcoin. Everybody feels like it's over, yet we see the global M2 absolutely having ripped to the upside. As Bitcoin has followed this, pretty darn close. This is about on a 90-day sort of adjustment to where they line up, because the global liquidity leads. It happens before it pushes markets to the upside. But this is basically brought in line to see how this is mapped. And this is going almost to a T. But currently, we are getting a bit of a pullback, but we're getting a massive bullish divergence, a massive magnet to the upside with all of this liquidity that at some point is going to start finding its way into risk markets. So while this is scary, I see this as ultimately great opportunity. And what will happen, will I be wrong if Bitcoin continues to drop and we get down to 90, down to 88? No, that just means we have a much stronger slingshot, just powder keg, just ready to rocket this and move this back to the upside. So whatever happens here, we have a plan. We have a map. We have an understanding of what's happening, and we don't need to be so worried. Sometimes we just need to be more patient than we want to be. Patience pays in profits if you can hold on. That's what this is all about. And this is what we saw in 2020 into 2021 versus where we're at right now, 2024 into 2025. We had this nice move up here. And the sell-off, it's all over. But look, the little consolidation and then this absolute rippage to the upside. So if we were to get that drawdown that we were just talking about, if this were to drop further down into 90, down into the mid and low 80s, then that would actually line up very perfectly with what we're seeing on this, if that were to play out. Again, sometimes you look for opportunities before they happen. So if we see this fractal and how markets played out in this previous cycle, if we do get the sell-off, it's not like it's out of context. It's never happened before. We've seen this before, so let's get a plan. Let's get a plan. So we got 3,000 people tuned in. Shout out to each and every one of you. Make sure, we got a little bit more to go, but make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, following, getting involved. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you're on X, I should say. Hit that share button, hit that like button. If we can get over 40 shares on this before tomorrow, I will check at the beginning of the stream tomorrow. If we are over 40, we will do a $100 USDT giveaway. It will either be a product or the actual tether, depending on where you're located. But let's get involved, share this, just get active. Make sure you're following. Make sure you are following me. Hit that subscription. Also, at Academy BitLab. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure if you're not here either, come over, search BitLab Academy, come get involved. Make sure you're subscribed, turn on your notifications. Of course, on Rumble too. If you're watching on Rumble, hit that follow button. Make sure you're following. Hit that like button. Get involved. Now let's continue on because we got a couple more things we want to look at. We have the plan here. If we get the sell-off, we've seen this before. Now, next thing up, we're seeing something that tends to precede pretty large moves to the upside, much like the funding rate that can signal when everybody's gone short. We also see the demand momentum. Look at this. Look how deep this was. This almost like a trampoline when the demand momentum gets this low. What happened? Look, massive move here from 40,000 up to 109,000. What did we see here? This move up here from I think it was about $35,000, and it dropped down into like 22,000. Pretty big sell-off here. But look, the demand momentum down, slingshot to the upside. Demand momentum, look, down, slingshot to the upside. This is the deepest the demand momentum has been yet on this entire cycle, on this entire chart, all the way back to 2020. This potentially could be setting up for the biggest spring-loaded trampoline launch pad to the upside. Now, some of these metrics will have indicated big move almost imminently out of this, but you have to realize there's always context around these. Right now, we're in a state of sort of confusion. We're in a state of max frustration and max uncertainty because of the never-ending jockeying back and forth, what's happening on the geopolitical stage in the Middle East and Iran and Israel, with what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, with what's going on with China and the trade war. It's like, God, can I get a break? Can I just look for a bullish divergence and take along? The market's max frustrating right now because I feel like a little bit of a shakeup of the world standards, the world order, the world, how things were done. Things are getting resituated right now, and they're getting reinstituted, and it's causing, okay, what trend do I look at? Sometimes Right now, the trend you need to focus most on is how patient can you be, take opportunities where you see them, and then let them play out. If you get a better opportunity after that, then you can lower your average entry. But this is telling me we may be, and it doesn't mean today, tomorrow, or next week, we may be setting up for one of the biggest slingshots to the upside in history. So let's hold on to our butts. And then we got, of course, the short-term holder cost basis, the MVRV. This looks so similar to me of what we saw back here, 2016. Look at this. This was just kind of working its way to the upside until ultimately, look at this. This basically the mid-range here, the MVRV was. And then ultimately this slingshot up into the final parabolic move to the upside. This looks very similar to this back here. Will it play out? We will have to see, but it's only going to play out for those that are in the market when it happens. So let's just note that. We talked about this. Be very careful about which coins you're picking and why. But then this right here, ETH. ETH in basically a picture-perfect Wyckoff accumulation, which these tend to be a setup for a next move higher. But Kelly, ETH is crashing. Is it? Is ETH crashing, or is it following the exact path that I outlined here on stream with you guys for weeks in a row, saying if this level is lost, which is this level right here, this 382, this level right here. We pointed this out time and time again, also in the Discord. Let me go out to the daily. This 382 right here, the low side of this range. I drew this little squiggle here. I said, blah, blah, blah. I drew this back over here. Okay. I drew this and said, watch this potentially, if it loses this, come down, bounce down into the golden pocket, which is this golden pocket right here, 0.618, the golden fib. If it loses the 382, it'll likely come down to here. And if it loses that, it'll likely come back down here into the zone. And what happened? You cannot make this up. We've been nailing these charts with you guys. Those of you that have been paying attention, look at this. I mean, this couldn't have followed this more perfectly. Came down, rejected at this line. And then look at this, almost on the exact line that I drew. Bounced right here, right into this golden pocket zone, the green zone that I've drawn for quite some time. Now, the most bullish case would be for this to hold this area and then slowly work its way back up and slingshot to the upside. But if we keep getting inundated with all these geopolitical things that are shaking up the risk narrative, then, and I talked about this up here at 26, 27, 2800, and then back here, especially at 2500, watch for the 2100s. This is right here. And the price came down there. If this is lost, it's like computer programming. If this, then that. If this is lost, it will likely come back down first to test the 786 at 2000. But more likely than not, I think that if this fell through, this would be a quick bounce and it would come down into this $1,800 range. Again, I'm not saying ETH is going to go there. I'm saying if this, then that. If this is able to hold this and push up, first we need to watch for a head, basically resistance directly overhead. All of these lows here, this range about 2330, 2370, this zone right here is going to be sort of like a resistance block zone right here. So let's put a little line, let's put a little box there. Let's make it a little bit brighter. Let's make it a little bit brighter. There we go. That way we can see it. Let's watch this. If this bounces up into this zone, doesn't mean it has to reject, but a lot of times if you get a relief rally, meaning the price is pushing up, it traps you into like a bull trap and then rejects and comes down. Because you see a 1 hour candle starting to move to the upside, it doesn't mean this is completely done. You need to let some things play out. If this is able to push up to this, reject once, it's fine. But then it pushes up, finds support, and then moves, great. But we need to let the markets play out on the assets you're holding. Link, look at where Link bounced. Come down here on the 4 hour. Look at this. You cannot make this up. Look at this line. And I did not change this for the show. Look at the candle bodies. Look at where they're at on this trend line. What trend line is that, Kelly? If you've been watching, you know what it is. That's the trend line that goes back all the way to 2020. Support, support, support. The wick, support, support, support. Now, again, it doesn't have to hold. In fact, we got a deviation above here. It wouldn't be out of context or something bizarre if the price action lost down here and came down like this and then worked its way back up and then you got the move. This would be a dream to be able to buy Link at $9. Dream. It'd be frustrating for those that want it to go up now. The market doesn't care what you want. The market's going to do what it's going to do. Much like the post I did last week, the market can remain irrational longer than most can remain solvent. So rather than chopping yourself out, if you bought here, because that's a great buy opportunity at a multi-year support line, great. If the price drops, it doesn't mean you made a stupid decision. If you believe in Link over the next year, then if this drops further, then you can add to your position. So that's what I'm seeing right there on Link. Aerodrome also still holding up relatively damn good. We got a nice W formation, kind of wonky, but more, yeah, it's looking at this on the 4 hour. Look at how this played out. Rising wedge, 1, 2, 3, intersecting right here where you have a rising level of support. This is, look, broke down, came up, rejected here, and now has been traveling a bit to the downside. Now, in fact, it's got a bit, it's a little bit off, but it's got a bit of a broadening wedge. So falling broadening wedges tend to break bullish. But the question is going to be, this is all going to be shaped by what happens on the geopolitical stage right now. So if anything, because things are so charged with excitement and fear, for me, I'm taking very small scalp trades, like $200 trades on 40X. You know, I'm not doing it with large portions of my portfolio, almost like a casino. But I took one this morning, got like a 20% rip, just 4 minutes, got in, got out. But like on Aerodrome, if this were to drop, I would be adding into this position. We've been stacking into this for some time, but if we get another opportunity to the downside, then we got to welcome it. BitTensor Tau. Also, look at this. Currently, it's just riding this support, kind of bouncing to the downside. If this is lost, we're looking at coming back into basically this zone right here, the 270s, 275, 274. This previous range high, see that? 280, 275, this zone. It doesn't make me mad. It means I still have an opportunity at these lower levels. When you have people like David Sachs, the crypto czar and AI czar, speaking positively about BitTensor Tau, and you have Barry Silbert and other major VCs and major players, and an ecosystem that only has 21 million coins like Bitcoin and has a proof of work, very similar sort of model. I'm very bullish on this project. So when I see opportunity, even, we stacked in here, still up from it. We added some at different points along this way. But if I still have opportunity, sub 400, sub 500, amazing. What else we got? BNB. BNB, the most interesting chart out there. Just because, look at this. It's like a lot of chop sideways, fast move. A lot of chop sideways. I'm expecting at some point something like this again on BNB to rip this to the upside. Currently, we have this level of support that has been lost. We can kind of delete this now. But this is, it's just sideways range. Chop, 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 chop. I'd be watching this line right here. If this were to come down and lose this, then it starts getting a little bit worrisome, looking for a target down here at 475. But this is, I expect this to have another pretty large pop at some point this cycle, whether it's later this year or 2026, who knows? But this is very reminiscent of what we saw in the previous cycle. What else we got? Morpho. Okay, look at that. That's on the weekly. Let's get to the 4 hour. So it's gotten a little bit ugly here. It's kind of basically giving great opportunities with all the developments and everything that's been happening. That's been happening with Coinbase and their integrations and the big money and ETFs, the custody that Coinbase is doing on these ETFs and so on and so forth. This looks very ugly. This does look like it's trying to swing back down to, maybe basically the dollar region, somewhere between $1 and $1.05. And I'd be a buyer there, but this looks bearish. It's like stair stepping to the downside, right? So what I'd love to see as a bull is this to do this, right? Come back down, form a double bottom right here, and then push up, break out, and start like that. But we don't have that yet. So wait for some sort of potential reversal signal to present itself. If you're bullish on this, great. You could be bullish and still, expect a price opportunity down here. But what we'd like to see is some sort of reversal pattern, like whether this continues to the upside and breaks past this high and then tests back to it and then continues, or the price action, where are we at? or the price action does that sort of double bottom there and then breaks out and does that. So let's let the chart start taking shape. Same thing with Injective. The breakdown, push up. If this can hold somewhere here with a higher low or at the exact same low, W formation, then break out, great. We don't have it yet. So let's let the shape take place, and then that will give us better knowledge about what is likely going to happen next. Look at this. We drew this over here. Look at what the price did. Came down. A bird just flew into the window. I don't know if you guys could hear that. I saw it bounce and fall off, actually. Much like this. Look, the bird flew into the window. Oh, no. So look at this trend line, actually. Look, rejection, chop right out, support. I mean, but the crazy thing is, we talked about this last week. XRP is essentially not really doing anything. XRP has been ranging sideways for 203 days. Ranging sideways. A little pump up, a little pump up, little breakdown, a little pump up, little breakdown, a little pump up. I hope this doesn't turn into a macro Bart Simpson pattern where it's like chop, 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 and then dropping back down into the $1.40, $1.38, or even lower. As it stands right now, it's still holding in the sideways range. If it loses this right here, this blue line right at about what was that, $1.96? $1.88. If this loses that line, then I do expect this to come back down to about $1.64 and then making that way to the $1.40. But that would be a break of the structure and that suggests weakness coming in. SUI is just, it's not giving you anything. Same thing that we're seeing on the smaller time frame. What we want to see here is this, whether it holds here and pushes up, breaks out and starts making higher highs, or this breaks down a little bit further and we get a double bottom and then we get the move. But currently we need to let the pattern sort of present itself. Avalanche is given such good prices right now. Look at this on Avalanche. It's sitting there at 1641, holding on to this zone. It's on the highway to the danger zone right now. Look at that. So all these support, rejection that we got to support. If this loses, where next? I'm looking right here next. If this is lost, then I'm looking down here at $11. Now let's take a fib. Option F from the bottom to the top. Let's see. Yeah, look at this. Oh, hold on. That's ugly. So that lost that. That completely lost that. Let's do option F from here to the top. Oh, no. Wow, that's not going to give any signal. That'd be way low. Yeah, I'll be watching here. If this is not able to hold this zone above 1480, then I think we're coming down to about 11. And I think that would be a steal over price. Avalanche is, building on their team and what they're doing. Let's go to the 4 hour. I think a lot of these are going to look the same. Let's see. Yep. See, they're all looking the same. Let's look for let's look for the patterns to develop to give us the signal. Right now, we're getting the chop back and forth and all the signals and this and that. And, Trump said this, and then the tariffs and Iran, Iraq, is China coming in? Like, you have to let the market kind of do it. And then another news, we got Kraken. Kraken, the intern, has been chained to his desk until Dog is listed. Pretty sure Dog is getting spot listed on its first tier 1 exchange this week. This is from Dan Gambardella. If you guys don't know who he is, he's a fantastic guy. If you're not following him, he puts out great content. A lot of Cardano stuff, but Bitcoin, Ethereum. He's also in the Dog Army. Not a paid KOL. There are no paid KOLs. He just sees what I do also. It's a great project. It's a token on Bitcoin with no paid KOLs, with 100,000 or more holders out there. And they got up to $1 billion market cap with no tier 1 exchanges. Basically every project out there, especially memes, they pay to get listed on exchanges. Dog is about to get listed on Kraken just from the organic engagement of the community. And this is going to bring a lot of liquidity to the ecosystem. So shout out to the Dog family. Let's look at that really quick before we go. Dog, let's go. If you're a dog holder, drop Dog in the live chat here. We got some opportunities brewing. This has just hit these levels all the way to the upside. Didn't quite hit this, but this is getting a bit of a sell-off. Does that mean it's over? Or does that mean you kind of hang on to your butts and look for opportunities? I'm looking for opportunities, or just patiently allowing it to develop as it is. Currently, we're sitting right about right here, which is where this support. Does that mean it can't go lower? No, it can still go lower. It could. I'm not saying it will. The next level down would be down here to about 2048. Right in this region here where this had rejection and all of these rejections here. But currently we got to sort of positive momentum wave. But it's all going to depend on that sort of all the geopolitical kerfufflery going on. And if Bitcoin takes a spill, then other assets are going to take a spill as well, which means you may have better prices to take advantage of. Solana also, look at this. Falling broadening wedge, came down when we were up here. I said, watch for the opportunity to come into the mid 130s, potentially coming down into the 120s. This got into the upper side of the 120, 127. But this is, everything feels like it's on a razor's edge. But in reality, the market's just presenting opportunities for those that want to reap the profits and the benefits in the months and maybe a year into the future. So we need to take advantage of this. And the number one thing we need to take advantage of right now is patience, education, and engagement in basically making sure you know what's going on in the market, making sure you know what your strategy is, making sure you know what your action plan is regardless. And if you need to get out of the charts, get out of the charts. Because if it stimulates your emotions too much and you make silly decisions, then get out of the charts. Stop looking at the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the daily. Let the market sort of do what it's going to do, and then take advantage of it as it comes back around into the super positive sentiment. But I'm still very macro bullish. So with that being said, everybody, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to shoot you. Let's see who is live right now. I'll redirect you to somebody. Let's see who is live. Get involved in the Discord too. The link is pinned in the top of the live chat. Frankie or Tom Crown is live. Let me send you. Let's go all raid Tom Crown. Let him know the BitLab fam is here. Say BitLab's here for the Crown crew. Say something. Say the BitLab fam's here. I'm going to redirect you guys there now. But I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you. Keep frosty. Keep your head about you. This market's still getting more bullish than ever. We just have to deal with the road bumps along the way. But that's all I got. Adios, everybody.